Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Give us a couple of minutes just to let everybody into this presentation and we'll get started soon. Thanks for joining us. Okay, well, welcome. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And welcome to one of today's Tiger Alumni Week webinar, Change Your Life One Pose at a Time. I am Kaylee Fishburne from RIT's Division of University Advancement, and I'll be your moderator for today. Before I introduce our speaker, there are a few housekeeping points I'd like to go over. All attendees have joined in on mute mode. However, your questions can be entered in the Q&A box at any time throughout this discussion. And we're going to make every effort to address all of your comments and questions throughout the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and made available in the upcoming weeks. A communication with how to access the recordings will be sent out and also posted on our website. If you have any technical questions during this presentation, feel free to post those in the chat box and we'll do our best to get you a response. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Sharp Notions, as well as our Tiger sponsor, Rochester Regional Health, for making this week's programming possible. We would also like to thank Access Services for helping us make this webinar accessible for all of our alumni. Real-time captioning is available within the webinar and our interpreters will be spotlighted during the presentation. This pandemic has had a major impact on everyone, including our students. We thank all of our alumni and friends for the support you have given to our students during these uncertain times. If you're interested in supporting or continuing your support, make sure to mark your calendars for this year's Roar Day, which will be held tomorrow. We'll be having all kinds of challenges like an alumni scavenger hunt and more, so please consider making a gift to support students who need it now more than ever. Can't wait for Roar Day? You can still make your gift right now by visiting rit.edu/roar, and your gift will be counted toward the Roar Day total and help RIT achieve its goal of $1.5 million. Now, onto our session. We are so pleased to welcome Cyndi Weis as she talks about demystifying yoga and meditation. Cyndi is a founder, owner, nutritionist, yoga and meditation teacher with enough life experience to share a few gold nuggets. Cyndi is an entrepreneur with boundless energy and knows the ins and outs of what it takes to run a successful business. She is the founder of Breathe Yoga, where she owns 2 locations and has franchise partners with 5 more locations in Rochester and Syracuse. She also owns Breathe at Home, a home decor store. In the fall of 2020, Cyndi launched Breathe Online, an online platform of workshops, classes, and continued learning. This platform continues to bring to life her quest to help share tools with people so they can experience their own life at its fullest. Cyndi has more than 30 years of nutrition counseling experience that she now uses to help people learn more about immunity, digestion, and making healthy choices that fit into each person's lifestyle. Cyndi, thank you so much for joining us. The audience is all yours.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. It is really nice to be here today. I love my roots at RIT and was so honored to be asked to speak in the session today. When I opened Breathe Yoga and Juice Bar 18 years ago, I really didn't know much about business. My degree from RIT was in nutrition, so I didn't know a lot about business. Yeah, but I really just knew that I wanted to share the things that I was passionate about and hope that other people would find value the same way that I had. So I actually grew up as an overweight kid. My mom introduced me to yoga when I was 12 years old. She bought me a book and an album. You guys remember albums? From a teacher named Richard Hittleman. And I used to lock myself in my bedroom and, put on the album and look at the pictures in the book and contort my chubby little body into these shapes, these yoga poses. And I really didn't think much about it at the time, obviously, but looking back, I can see that that was the beginning of me really changing my relationship with my body and my diet and how I wanted to live my life. So yoga made me feel good. Still makes me feel good. It really does. Many decades have gone by. And since I was doing yoga with Richard Hittleman in my bedroom, but I've made peace with my body. I've learned that eating well and moving and staying mentally positive and clear makes me happy. And that's really what I want to share with you today. So I'm going to ask Ron to put up some polling questions. It'll help me get an idea of what the audience looks like in terms of your level of interest in yoga. So if you ever tried yoga, we're speaking in this particular question to the physical practice of yoga. And you can just click one of those 4 answers. And then what's your main reason that you're interested in yoga? I'm assuming you're somewhat interested because you're on this session today. The third question is about meditation. So meditation is a component of yoga, but I'm interested to know how many of you are interested or practicing and why. All right, so just kind of take the next couple of seconds here, just click your answer. Trust that you know your answer for sure. It's you and your interest. And then Ron will go ahead and just kind of calculate the poll so we can get a sense. I love these polls on Zoom. I think they're so awesome. All right, so one of you practices yoga regularly. A few of you not so consistently, but you've tried. In fact, that's the looks like the majority of the group. Some of you haven't tried yet, but you're all interested. Yay, love that. Main reason you're trying yoga for stress relief, for physical health. That seems to be the winner. And it makes you feel good. I get you. Meditation. Let's see. It looks like none of you are practicing regularly, which doesn't surprise me, honestly. It's still on a really early growth trend. Some of you have tried not so consistently, and some of you have not tried yet, but you're all interested. Fantastic. Stress relief. Oh, what do you mean? You guys are stressed? What? We're living in this world today and you're stressed? Yeah, that's a main reason that you would look at meditation as a practice, wanting to become calmer, to relieve insomnia. That was one of the main reasons I started too. And again, you're all interested. Fantastic. So we're going to take that off the screen, close that down. And that really does help me so much to know that everyone on this call is interested. And also that this is not something that you're doing regularly. And that's why the title that I chose was like demystifying yoga and meditation, because I want to take away the obstacles. I want to make it just kind of simple, because it actually is simple. But taking on the subjects of yoga and meditation in 50 minutes is a lot. So what I'm going to do, though, is really make every attempt to dispel the myths and sort of clear the path so you can give this a try. I want to empower you. All right, so the first thing we want to do is just define yoga. If we were all to walk out to our nearest intersection and start stopping cars and say, so define yoga, we'd get some really strange answers. We would get answers like, yoga is only for flexible people, or yoga is when I just sit and chant or hum or something like that. Or yoga is about, like my yoga mat, my Lululemon, and going to a yoga studio, maybe a sweaty yoga class. Those would be the kind of answers we might get if we ask the question. But yoga is a very broad term. So I want to define it in its broadest sense. So the word yoga actually means to yoke, to bring together. And under the word yoga, they're called 8 limbs. So 8 aspects of yoga. And out of 8 of them, only 1 is physical, which is a big surprise because in our country, we typically think of the physical practice of yoga, but only 1 of the 8 limbs is physical. The others have to do with the quality of your mind, like kind of what are the thoughts behind what it is you're doing. You could be on a yoga mat and you could be having thoughts like, oh, this body of mine, it never cooperates. If I could lose 10 pounds, or if I could be stronger or more flexible, if those are the thoughts behind your physical practice, I don't know. Then there's more to practice here, right? Is really the quality of mind behind those physical poses. But also in those 8 limbs, one of the other limbs is meditation. So under 8, there's like the foundation of yoga thought. There's focus, concentration. There's the way sort of we show up in the world. And then there's the physical practice, asana, and there's meditation, 2 of the 8 limbs. So from this broad view of yoga, first of all, you don't need to have a yoga mat or Lululemon or be stretchy or any of those things that may or may not have held you back from trying yoga. But the surge in the Western culture for yoga since the late 80s has totally been fueled by the physical practice. So it's only one of the 8 limbs, but it's basically the way that most Americans think of yoga is the physical practice of yoga. And it's not too surprising that right now in the current pandemic, the current situation of life, that there is now this new interest in meditation. And just like you wrote on your questionnaire, many people are turning to meditation as a way to manage stress, like a tool. And like you, most people haven't tried it yet. It's really, really early on in meditation kind of moving into our culture. So consider yourself an early adopter for even just being on this call. So I want to know, you're probably stressed, right? How could you not be stressed and be living right now? We all are. It's actually a very safe, universal assumption. We are stressed and we're anxious and there's uncertainty. And the thing about it is these mental stressors can manifest in physical ways. So insomnia, digestive disorders, headaches, backaches. The list goes on and on. So my choice in speaking to you today about the physical practice of yoga, as well as the practice of meditation, is because there's likely been no time in history where we've needed this combination more than we need it right now. So let's just go to meditation first. My favorite definition of meditation is sustained voluntary attention, period. So that means if you were to voluntarily choose to sustain your attention on something, let's say the breath, then you'd be meditating. It doesn't say anything about being able to shut down your thoughts or sit cross-legged or grow a beard or chant or anything like that. It just says sustained voluntary attention. It's that simple. And it's also not at all easy. The cool thing is that you actually already know how to do this. So I happen to be the proud grandmother of 4. I have 4 grandchildren under the age of 3. And I look at yoga and meditation through the filter of my grandchildren. I watch how I could give them some silly little lid off of a Tupperware container and how that would keep them 100% interested. They would be so involved, paying attention to the one thing in their hands that they really wouldn't be able to shift their attention until I took that lid away and put something else in their hands or directed their attention elsewhere. And you were like that too. And then you learned how to multitask. You learned how to multi-think, like how you can be doing one thing, but thinking about another, preparing to do something else, reviewing what you just did or said. It's like a lot. And it's a learned behavior. The innate behavior is to actually be present. And so to me, that's very validating, is that we all have this ability and all we have to do is get it back. So, this proficiency in multitasking has sort of left us thinking that maybe we can't get still, that we can't quiet our minds. I get that all the time when I say to someone why would you not try meditation? Oh, I can't sit still. Oh, my mind's too busy. Oh, I have too many thoughts. Well, I call that the humble brag, right? Okay, yeah, of course you do. And so do I. And so does everyone have a lot of thoughts. In fact, there was a study years ago that said that we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And that 70,000 of those 80,000 thoughts are the same thoughts every day. So we're just like ruminating same stuff, right? You play it over in your head all the time. So, of course, you have thoughts. And the sustained voluntary attention definition of meditation does not discredit the fact that you have thoughts and that you will have thoughts. So, all we have to really do to practice meditation is to show up. Like, say, like, all right, I'm just going to do the thing. And then you choose an object of your attention. A lot of times it's breath because it's always there. You can always find it. But it could be anything, could be a mantra, could be the flicker of a candle flame. It could be so many different things. And then your job or the practice is to just watch and observe what you're watching. And a thought will come in, it definitely will. And you'll just choose to keep watching your breath, the candle flame, whatever it is you've chosen. So the thoughts, you may have heard it described as like clouds floating through. You're just not latching onto the clouds. So there's a difference between thoughts and thinking. So for example, I'm in Rochester today and it's rainy and gloomy. So a thought could be, it's gloomy. I wonder what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Wait a minute, I think they said it was going to be nice for the weekend. Well, if it's nice for the weekend, I should probably get outside and do those last minute things I haven't done. Oh, yeah, wow, if I'm going to get outside, should I really go see fall leaves or should I do some work? I mean, that's called thinking. That's when we start to link thoughts together. But thoughts are going to float through like clouds, and it's your choice whether to jump on and start to link them together. And the thing is, I'm just letting you know now, you will do that. It's just the human brain. But when you catch yourself doing it, then you're like, oh, there I go again. Okay. So you come back. You come back to the attention that you've put on your breath or the flicker of the candle or whatever it is in that particular meditation that's the object of attention. So I want to do something with you that's like, it's called a 16-second meditation. And this is to dispel the myth that you don't have time to meditate, because I do know that you have 16 seconds. So before we do it, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we're going to do it, and that'll be that. Okay? So in this 16-second meditation, when we do this together, I'll ask you to close your eyes or lower your lids, right? I want to take away the stimulus of vision. So some people don't like to close their eyes fully, but you can just gaze down if that's your preference. And then what you'll do is you will mentally watch as you breathe air in through your nose. You're going to breathe it in and you're going to be basically a 4 count. So you're going to be breathing in through your nose, watching, observing the breath move through the pathway of your sinuses, expand your lungs, maybe expand your ribs, and then you'll hold the breath with your lungs full. And it's not just the holding of the breath, but it's the observing of the holding of the breath. And then you'll slowly let the lungs release the air, and you'll observe. You'll watch how the body softens, how the breath moves through this reverse pathway through your sinuses, out back through your nostrils into the room. And then you'll just pause with your lungs empty and just observe what it feels like, the experience of empty lungs. And then you'll start breathing regularly. Okay? All right. So you're going to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes. So let's do that. And then as you're ready, start a long, slow, deep inhale. Watch the air. Watch it come into your body, move through the respiratory pathway, and fill your lungs. Pause when your lungs are full. Like, see how your lungs, like, look at them from the inside of your mind. Slowly start to release the air from your lungs. Watch it, observe it. And once the air is gone, just hold the lungs empty and observe that experience. And then start breathing naturally again. Open up your eyes. Okay. So that was 16 seconds. Now, a lot happened in 16 seconds, believe it or not. What you've done is you've introduced a pattern interrupt, because up until I asked you to observe your breath, you were listening to what I was talking about. Your mind was filtering it, making sense of it. You were in the process of listening and taking in information. And when I asked you to watch your breath, it gave your brain a chance to pause. And there is so much science to support the benefits of meditation. It's crazy. So I want to just kind of give you one. I want to give you the biggest, I won't say the biggest, but the most monumental study in meditation, because we as Westerners, we love proof. We totally do. I mean, yogis in India 5,000 years ago were meditating because they knew it made them feel good. But that's not enough for us. Like, we need science, we need facts. So let me tell you about the study that kind of really started the onslaught of studies that are now being done on meditation. And there are so many. This was back in 2012, so it wasn't that long ago. And Dr. Sarah Lazar started this study and used Mass General Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And together, they created a small but significant study of only 16 subjects. So it was small. But some of the subjects had meditated before and some had not. What they did is they did pre-study MRIs on the brains of all 16 subjects. And then they asked the subjects to meditate 30 minutes a day by watching their breath, like you just did. Okay. And after 56 days, they did another MRI. In less than 2 months, 56 days, the MRIs unanimously showed 2 distinct changes, and they're pretty big. There was a 5% decrease in the gray matter of the amygdala part of the brain. Okay, so this is the primitive area of the brain associated with fear and anxiety and anger. And when it's overstimulated, it can lead to depression. So there was a 5% decrease in the physical structure of that part of the brain. There was also a 5% increase in the part of the brain called the hippocampus. And this part of the brain is where we consolidate information from short-term memory to long-term memory. It's also the part of the brain associated with compassion. Okay. So this part of the brain unanimously increased 5% in its gray matter in just 56 days. So this is pretty powerful information. And it was this study that really showed that in such a short period of time, 56 days, with very short bouts of meditation, just up to 30 minutes, with people that had very little information on how to meditate, that you would unanimously change the structure of the brain. So it was this study by Sarah Lazar that actually then started so many studies right now on meditation. Like I can't seem to look at any of the things that are on my newsfeed without seeing another one, because they are just coming up everywhere all the time. One of the greatest benefits of meditation is how it helps us to better cope with daily stressors. And I think that that's so incredibly important right now. And you brought it up in your own poll survey that we did at the beginning. So the ability to be more calm, more attentive, more caring towards ourselves and others when life gets hard is of premier importance to us right now. So if all this is true, then why don't we do it? Why don't we do the thing, right? We did it just now for 16 seconds. I mean, if we were told to take a pill every morning to increase the area of our brain that would positively impact memory and would make us less reactive in our life, we would do it. But when we think about taking 5, 15, 30 minutes a day to sit in stillness and silence, we can't commit. It's kind of interesting, right? What I would like to do is I would like to go back to that 16-second meditation with you. And I'd like to string a few of those 16 seconds together. Are you game? Okay. All right, so get comfortable, right? You're in your own office or your own home. So you have the comfortable space of familiarity. So close your eyes or lower your lids and just sort of presence yourself to the space that you're in. If there are any sounds in your space, don't be annoyed by them. Just actually bring them in like, okay, there's sound in my space. Someone outside the room, someone outside the walls. And once you've taken in the sound, you just embrace it as part of your environment today. And then begin to watch your next inhale. Draw the air in. Pause when your lungs are full. Observe. Release the air out. Watch it. Observe your lungs when they're empty. Start again. Breathe in. Pause. Breathe out. Pause. Inhale, observe, right? Watch it. Hold it. Release it. Observe. Once more, draw the air in. Pause. Release the air out. Pause. Let your breathing come back to a natural rhythm. And slowly open your eyes. So notice how you feel. Okay, I'd like to open this up for some questions because, like I said, it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. Very, very big topics in a short period of time. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that you might have, and Kaylee's going to put those questions into the space for me.
Thank you, Cyndi. We do have one question that's waiting for us right now. Some fitness mats and yoga mats are very thick and they're challenging when you're doing the physical act of yoga. And we're wondering if you have any recommendations about what type of yoga mat might be best for the actual physical practice of yoga.
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I'm old enough to remember when running was not an industry or a sport. My dad was an early jogger. And I can remember my dad just like jogging in like his garden sneakers. That seems silly, right? Because now, like, we've got such high tech running shoes, it's an industry. The same thing is true with yoga. And so a yoga mat that is not sticky and does not have density for cushioning it can ruin your yoga practice in such a way that it's not enjoyable. So what you're looking for, first of all, when you say that it's like some mats are kind of thick, you might be using what's called a Pilates mat. They're about like this thick, like maybe an inch, inch and a half thick. And oftentimes they're confused with yoga mats. So you do want a yoga mat that is thin but dense. Now, I will tell you, just like running shoes, yoga mats are not all created equal. Like, I know that I could go to the grocery store and buy a yoga mat for $9.99, and I know that it would probably not make my body as happy as it could be in my yoga practice as if I spend the money and buy a yoga mat that will probably last me the rest of my life. Yoga mats range from $60 to $80 per yoga mat. And most of them have lifetime guarantees. But what you want is something that when you look at the thickness of it, it might only be an eighth to a half an inch thick, but it's dense. So like between your body and the floor, between your knees and the floor, between your spine and the floor, there's cushioning, not a soft, squishy cushion, but a density. And that's also going to give you the ability to stand on your yoga mat without feeling like you're standing on a cloud. Like you want to be standing on something earthy. Like you need to be able to feel the density, but also feel the floor through the mat. Okay, so there's two things you're looking at is density and also stickiness. And that's the other thing. The 9.99 mat, it won't be sticky. Your hands will slide, your feet will slide, and you'll be like, wait, this can't be what she's talking about. So, if you are, here's the thing, we used to rent yoga mats in our studio. And now with COVID, props in a yoga studio will never, ever happen again. It's just never going to happen. So I would suggest if you're interested in yoga that you, before you buy the 9.99 mat and throw it away, research a little bit and maybe invest in a mat that is going to stay with you during the duration. Mats that I like, Manduka, Manduka, is a really nice, dense, sticky mat. Lululemon has a nice mat. Personally, I think it's heavy, so I don't like to carry it around a lot because it's heavy. Manduka is not as heavy. The other mat that we carry at Breathe, we carry all three of these. It's something called the B mat, like the letter B. Those are the three mats that I would recommend off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a time of day that is better to practice yoga or meditation? And what are your recommendations about time of day?
The most important time of the day is the time of the day that you'll actually do it. Right? It's like exercise. Like, there could be so many studies saying, well, you would burn slightly more calories if you did it at this time of the day or that time of the day. But the reality is you want to choose the time of the day that you can create a habit around, that you can stick to. So my meditation teacher, he feels strongly about something called RPM, Rise, P, Meditate. And I have to say, I follow that because universally, this is something we all do. We wake up, we head to the bathroom, and you want to sit yourself right back down and meditate before the coffee, before the dogs, before the news, and God forbid, before you check the email, right? So many people, first thing they do when they wake up is look at their phone. It's really not the way to start the day. So the best way to do this is to, again, RPM, and sit yourself right back down. And even if today, when we strung together those 16-second breaths, we meditated for a minute and a half. That's fine. It's a great place to start. It's like rolling a snowball. If you tell yourself you're going to start with 30 minutes of meditation, I guarantee you're not going to stick with it. So start with something reasonable, like, okay, I'm going to rise, P, meditate for 3 minutes. You can set the alarm on your phone. You can watch your breath the way that we just did. I'm going to share a resource with you at the end of this conversation for guided meditation. But, it's kind of that simple. I would say whenever you will do it. So beginning of the day is a great way to set the trajectory of your day. And I am a strong believer in desire over discipline. So if you start meditating in the morning, every morning, within a short time, we already know it takes 56 days, right? Or less to change the structure of your brain. So if you start meditating every morning and you notice a benefit in how you feel, you just feel less reactive. You just feel a little calmer. Then my guess is that you're going to want to feel more of that. And if that happens, what I would suggest is then you bookend your day by adding a meditation toward the end of the day, like after work, somewhere between after work and before bed. They're very, very different. One is called Set the Table, and the other is called Clear Up the Dishes. You set the table in the morning, you set the trajectory of your day, kind of like clear it, open it up, like brand new day. And then that kind of, end of the day meditation bookend is for you to be able to let go of everything that went on, right? And come back to create a pattern disrupt, right? A pattern interruption. You're watching your breath. You're not thinking. And then you move on with what's in your evening, like what part of your life, like you want to be open and clear and present for. So I would say those would be my suggestions.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Earlier on in your presentation, you mentioned that there are 8 limbs of yoga, and we're wondering if Breathe will be offering other aspects from those 8 limbs as classes that we could enroll in.
Yes, yes, for sure. We actually already do. And the resource that I wanted to share with you is, and I'm going to ask Ron to put this in the chat. But Breathe Yoga started with one location in Pittsford 18 years ago. We now have 7 locations, physical locations. And when we had to shut down in March, we scrambled to create an online platform, something we did not have. Kind of was waiting for someday, right? It just really hadn't come yet, but all of a sudden it was there. So we created an incredible online platform that I'm really proud of. And it's got about 50 yoga and meditation classes a week, ranging from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to 75 minutes. There are like the active power vinyasa classes where you can kind of get your yoga within like a more um, a rigorous kind of athletic type of an approach, as well as we have yin yoga classes, which are kind of long held stretches. And yin yoga not only addresses the stretchiness of the muscles, but more of the connective tissue. So if you're really stiff, like stiff in your joints, yin classes is amazing. You hold the poses for a long period of time. They're usually on the floor, so you're supported, and they can be really, really powerful. We also offer foundations classes. And foundations classes are the type of class, like if you're like, I don't even know these words she's talking about, come on in and take a foundations class. It's where you learn the poses. Everything is meant to be, our approach is non intimidating. Remember, I'm the 12-year-old that got introduced to yoga through an album and a book. And that's really always what I think of in the back of my mind is I don't want anyone to stay away because they think that maybe they can't do it. So our approach is always super inclusive and like, let's just make the yoga fit you as opposed you fit the yoga. On our platform, our online platform, we have restorative yoga, which is really incredible. It's you do maybe 4 yoga poses in the entire 60 minutes, and you're supported with bolsters, and bolsters basically like the cushions off your couch, like a blanket or a towel rolled up. Like the instructors are really professional and powerful at creating an at-home practice without anything really special in terms of props. And then meditations. We have guided meditations twice a day on our online platform. And I teach some of all of our meditation teachers are trained meditation teachers, which is actually very rare. Yoga teachers, not so rare, because the wave of yoga since the 80s has been very much about the physical practice. So there have been lots and lots of people trained to teach the physical practice of yoga really well. And I hope you've experienced that in your experiences with yoga. So our brief teachers in the area of yoga are very well trained and very experienced, and the same as those teachers that are in meditation. They are specifically trained in meditation and they meditate. So I think that there's a wealth of opportunity to learn from that online platform. And what we've done is created a free class for everyone. So if you follow the link, you will get that free class. You can use it for yoga, you can use it for meditation, and you can just sort of see what resonates with you. If you're finding what you're looking for in a medium that works for you now. We are back to studio classes, but very minimally in New York. And so this online platform has been incredibly helpful.
Well, thank you, Cyndi. Those were all of the questions that we had today. Um, and we really would like to thank you for sharing your expertise with our alumni and our friends today. Thank you to our audience at home for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, we will send out information on how to access this recording in the near future. And before you log off, do remember to check that chat box for the link that was sent by Cyndi. And please don't forget to make your Roar Day gift by using the link in the chat box that was sent earlier. Lastly, if you are not already connected to the RIT Alumni Association social media channels, we encourage you to do so. Those links can be found in the chat box as well. Thank you again, Cyndi. Thank you to our audience for joining us today, and please enjoy the rest of Tiger Alumni Week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.